Hey, what's up guys? In this video we're going to be talking all about Cooper tests. What are they, how to do them, what they mean, all that sort of stuff. And then I'm going to be doing one myself. So let's get stuck in. Right guys, so I'm back here at Waltham Abbey, Essex Gunpowder Park, which you may have seen on the channel before, to do my Cooper test. The reason I picked this is because it's flat, it's fast, and there's a bit of a loop that I can do around it. But more importantly, you're probably here to find out what a Cooper test is and why I'm doing that. I think the easiest thing to do for this video is I'm going to send you back to HQ, and I'm going to tell you all about them, how it all works and all that sort of stuff, explain it as best I can, and then meet you back here, and then we'll do the Cooper test. I'll get warmed up in the meantime, so you don't have to worry about watching me do all that. So let's go back to HQ, I'll explain what a Cooper test is and how it all works, and then I'll meet you back here on the start line.
Okay, so firstly, what is a Cooper test? Now, a dude called Ken Cooper in 1968, he's an MD, he came up with this test for the US military, and it's to measure, well, in an easy way, basically the fitness of a person. It's quite a basic and easy way to measure a person's fitness. It's not easy doing it, but it's quite an easier way than, let's say, going to a lab and running on a treadmill with a mask on and working out your VO2 max. The idea of the fitness test is to give an indication or a predictive sort of indication of what your VO2 max is. As I say, it's quite a basic way of doing it, but without having to be able to go to a treadmill and a lab and work out your VO2 max. This is like the next best thing. So this test is all about measuring aerobic fitness, your cardiovascular endurance, which is how much exercise, sustained exercise you can do. And we're trying to work out roughly what our VO2 max is. And our VO2 max is how much oxygen we can use, our body can use to help us in terms of exercise. And obviously the more oxygen we're getting in, the fitter we are and the harder we can work. That's roughly how it all works. So this test is designed to sort of punch out at the end of it a number for what our VO2 max is, but I'm using this test really to work out not necessarily my VO2 max, but what my max heart rate is, because I want to use it to adjust my zones and get a more accurate reading on my heart rate zones, and that's why I wanted to make this video. So it's actually quite hard to work out what your max heart rate is without having to go to a lab and doing this VO2 max test and all that sort of stuff. And the Cooper test is a way of sort of providing that data or those data points to work it out, along with like the VO2 max and that sort of stuff. So it's a good combination to use if you want to know where you're at. Me being in marathon training, I want to know where I'm at in terms of fitness. I want to know where I'm at in terms of VO2 max, and I want that max heart rate, so then I can sort of redefine my zones for my heart rate training during marathon training. With just as a caveat to all this, with max heart rate, there is certain things that can affect it. And actually, to be honest with this test, there's different things that can affect it. So like your max heart rate can be impacted by, you know, how much caffeine you've had, how much sleep you've had, and all that sort of stuff. So just a word of warning, this test that I'm doing and all this data I'm using, use it with a pinch of salt, okay? Because this is not 100% accurate, it's not being done in a lab and all that sort of stuff. But for me, this is sort of the closest way of getting all those data points, or the easiest way, sorry, to getting all those data points which I can then use to help me with my marathon training. Okay, so how do you do a Cooper test? Right, so a Cooper test is a 12-minute run, and you're meant to run as hard as you can for those 12 minutes. But before you do this, you must check, or I'd really advise you to check with your GP to make sure you're up for this test, because it's quite intense, it's quite hard, and I don't want anybody having a heart attack when they do it. So make sure that you check that you're up for this, okay, with a GP or a professional person. Ideally, you're looking for a flat looped circuit, so obviously a track comes to mind. You know, it's not a particularly very windy day, not particularly hot, you know, conditions have got to be right. And you're going to need like a stopwatch. You're going to need probably somebody, it's difficult at the moment with social distancing, but somebody who can then time you and all that sort of stuff. And you'll see from the video I actually use two watches because I want one's for distance and one's for time. So you need those sort of things. If you're on a track, you'd probably use cones to measure out the distance and that sort of stuff. But yeah, that's basically what you need. So you need like a track, flat area, and that's why I've used Gunpowder Park, stopwatch, hopefully somebody who can help you, if not, I don't know, social distancing, and an accurate way of timing you and measuring what you're doing. So the idea of the test is to run as far as you can. And when you've done that, yeah, there's like a table, and I think I'll put it up somewhere. But basically, it works out from your age, how far you run, and what that equates to, whether it's excellent or good or average and all that sort of stuff. Again, with a pinch of salt to some of this, okay? But if you look at the table, for example, my age group, 40 to 49, is over 2,500 metres, is excellent. So today, I'm going to go and run, or try to run, over 2,500 metres in 12 minutes. That's my goal, that's my aim. And if I do that, then obviously that's excellent. But also then I've worked hard, so my max heart rate will be, you know, poking its head up, and then I'll then be able to work out the VO2 max and all that sort of stuff. The sum to work out your VO2 max I'll put up as well. There's like a sum that you can use to work out your VO2 max, but we'll get into that once I've done the run. So I think that's it. Let me know in the comments if you've got anything else to add to this. Obviously, I'm new to all this sort of stuff. I'm not a science doctor. I'm not a PhD dude. I'm not an MD or anything like that. I'm doing this off of what I've read off the internet and all that sort of stuff. So let me know in the comments if you know more about it. But just as I say, just objectively, you know, make sure you speak to a GP, a physician, or whatever they call it in the US before you go and do this. The data's not 100% accurate, okay? This is just a gauge of where you're at. But you know, this is all part of the process of marathon training or whatever, just to learn where you are in terms of fitness and all that sort of stuff. Right, so that's out of the way. Hopefully you now know what a Cooper test is. I'm going to go and do one, and then I'll meet you back here and we'll go over my data.
Right, so that's the warm-up done. Bit out of breath already, actually. So we're going to head to the start line. Like I said at the start, Wolfram Abbey gunpowder here where I am is awesome. It's flat, it's wicked, and you can just gun it. There's a slight elevation, but there's not anything that's really going to bother us today. So that's the important thing. That's why I chose it. So you need, like I said a second ago, you need to pick somewhere that's flat. I've got two watches on. One of them's my Apple Watch and one of them's my Garmin. The Garmin's going to be tracking the distance, and the Apple Watch has got a stopwatch on it, so I know how far I've got to go for these 12 minutes. Right, so warm up done, explanation done. Let's get to the start line. Okay, so here we go. I'm going to put you on here, go strap you to my chest, so it films as I go round. I may take it off as I'm going round, which I shouldn't do really, because I should be concentrating on run as fast as I can. But if I can get it off, I will, because it does annoy me when I wear one of these chest things. But anyway, forget about that. We're ready to go. 12 minutes, Cooper test. Let's do this. Oh man, that was hard, real hard. 12:04 I went for. Let's have a look at the data in a sec. Okay, so let's talk data, and we'll throw back to the HQ after this anyway, but just to give you the initial stats, if they come up right. Max heart rate 185. I don't know whether I should have been pushing harder, but it says 185, so that's got to be what it is. That's what I maxed out at, but I mean, that's, I think, a good thing. But we'll work it out, put it in. As I say, with the Cooper thing, it's about distance as well. So I'm going to recover, do a cool down, back to HQ.
Okay, we are back and we are ready to go through this data. Hopefully, firstly, the first bit of the video made sense, and secondly, you can see sort of how hard it is, because it's not easy, right? And I think I mentioned it in the first part of the video. Please, whatever you do before you go out and do this, make sure you check with somebody that you're fit enough to, or you're up to being able to do this. Okay, I don't want anybody getting into trouble by doing this test. So I ran for 12 minutes. around Gunpowder Park. It was slightly windier than I was expecting, and there was deviations small in the elevation, which is another reason why you would use a track. The conditions of the what I was running on wasn't perfect. It was muddy and it was slippery in places. But that being said, this is not an exact sort of scientific experiment. This is all about me trying to get some information which I can then use for my marathon training, to calculate my heart rates, to calculate my VO2 max, and all that sort of stuff, and just to know where I am in terms of fitness. I will come back and do another one of these when I start my training block in the summer for my next marathon, because I think it's a good idea to do these to see where you're improving, not improving, all that sort of stuff. But how did I get on? Okay, so firstly, I might have overdone the warm-up. You're meant to warm up for about 10 to 15 minutes. I might have overdone that. The other thing, and this is going to sound really stupid, but I don't think I actually ran fast enough. As I came round towards the end, my brain was telling me to stop, telling me to slow down. And I really felt like, actually, when I finished, I wasn't collapsed on the floor in a heap of jelly. I probably should have been able to go harder. And this is the battle. It's that sort of mind-body exchange where your brain's telling you, no, this is really hurting, you feel sick. But at the same time, you know you can go further. So I'm not sure I did the best job today. I think I could do a better job. But anyway, but I did it. And the data's interesting for me. So let's get into that. Okay, so I'm going to look at my notes because I wrote down exactly what I've done. So I ran today 3.06 kilometres in 12 minutes. Now, that basically gave me a max heart rate of 185. Now, I thought it'd be higher than that. So I don't know whether that's particularly good or bad, but it's giving me a max heart rate of 185 today. I was wearing a heart rate monitor. Now, if I put that into the sum, and I'll put that somewhere up on the screen, that punches me out with a VO2 max of 57.1, which is in the top 5% of my age group. It's more importantly for me, adjusted my zones slightly for my heart rate, and which is the whole reason why I wanted to do this, was I wanted to readjust or to check my zones that I was training in the right zones from my Garmin. And I did a video on the Garmin heart rate monitor the other day, and I would recommend you check that out. And I would recommend you check out the next video we do in the series on how to adjust them and all that sort of stuff. But it's interesting to see that it's slightly adjusted my heart rate zone. So to give you, again, I'll put it up on the screen, but my zones before I started this, zone 1 was 111 to 135, zone 2 136 to 150, zone 3 151 to 161, zone 4 162 to 169, and zone 5 169 and over. So they're my zones before I did this test. Now, I took the data from today and I punched that into a website, an app, and you can do it yourself. It's all free, it's online, and I'll put some of the links in the description. Now, zone 1's come out at 126 to 136. Zone 2 is now 137 to 149. Zone 3 is 150 to 162. Zone 4, 163 to 173. Zone 5 is 174 to 185. So what that's done, and I think it's pretty clear, is it sort of dialed in the zones a little bit better. I think it's interesting on zone 4 that it's gone from 162 to 169 to 163 to 173. So it's stretched that out a bit more. So to work in my zone 5, to work in that top end, I need to be working harder, or I can work harder. I can go above 173, and I need to be up there in that level to be working in zone 5, which is really interesting for me. So that means I need to be working harder. I can work harder in that zone 5. In the lower levels, they're pretty much in line. I mean, you know, the dead zone, zone 3, 150 to 162 now versus 151 to 161. So that's unchanged, basically. And even in zone 1, which is, you know, your easy pace, 126 now, 136 it was, 111 to 135. So it's pretty much, you know, the same. It's just, what it's done is now adjusted the top end of the spectrum, which is what I wanted to do. I wanted to make sure that in zone 1 and 2 I was on point, and in zone 4 and 5 I was on point. And I've achieved that today. So I've achieved some good things, and it's left me, you know, with some good data points. Sorry, just to go back on the Cooper test, because Cooper test is distance based. I think I said it at the start, and I've got it written down here. Men my age over 2,500 meters is excellent. So I ran 3.06 kilometers. So that's, you know, that's excellent. So I did well there. I do, like I said, feel like I could have run harder. So maybe it's a good point to come back, but you don't know. I think when you're running, you're sort of conscious of the fact, oh, I've only got 12 minutes and all that sort of stuff. So it does play with your mind. But yeah, I'm kind of pleased that I've done it, and I would recommend you do it if you're like me and you're really into your sort of training, marathon training, and you want to find out where you're at. Like I said about a million times now, make sure you check with the GP that you're up for it. Make sure you get the right conditions, the right area. I wouldn't, you know, you don't want to be running up hills or anything like that. You want to make sure it's flat and it's good temperature and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, I mean, that's a really interesting exercise. Let me know in the comments, is this something you're going to look to do? Is it something you've done? How did you get on with it? Yeah, I think like anything with this, I don't rely 100% on heart rate training. I don't rely on 100% on the data that this provides. I take little bits from everything and I sort of put it all together to make me a better runner. And I think that's the message I want to get to you. So it's a bit of fun as well to see where you're at. You know, you can do a 5K fastest known time. You can do that. You know, there's other ways you can measure your fitness, but this is definitely one interesting way that I would recommend you try. It's not easy. Be warned, it's really not easy. It's hard, but it's good fun. But that's it from me. I hope that was interesting for you. I'll catch you guys later.